I think they made it. Yeah, they made it back.
Gaming and technology are the talk of the party here with EloTalk.
Hello, and welcome to yet another edition of EloChat, the podcast where we talk about what's new in gaming, technology, and culture. My name is Justin, and I am an editor with EloTalk, EloTalk.com. I am the guy responsible for making sure that everyone uses Oxford commas and spell things correctly. And today, I am joined by three other guests. I have Lewis, Dale, and IcyVolk. You might remember Lewis because he was very passionate about Steam Greenlight. We'll never let you live that down, man. I feel like this is something this is going to be attached to you. I'm sorry. Oh, man. Yeah, speaking of, today we're going to be taking a look kind of at more of a culture slice of topic today. We're looking at YouTube, which is a huge media platform that's been around for, it feels like forever now. And we're going to be talking about kind of like the new approaches and changes to advertising, YouTube's role as a corporation with content creators, and the effect that that has on the community. But before we get into that, did you all want to introduce yourselves? Where can people find you? And kind of give us a little background, if you want to, about your involvement with YouTube, how long you've been involved with the platform, stuff like that. If Lewis, you want to go first.
All right, my name is Lewis. I am a podcast editor here at EloTalk. I also have my own podcast called The Last Episode, and you can find that through EloTalk.com. You can just go to the little podcast app and see all the amazing podcasts that we have. So my involvement with YouTube is I have been obsessed with the god dang thing since, I'm going to say 2008 or 2009. No, 2009 to 2010, because that's when Modern Warfare 2 came out. Of course, it's Call of Duty related. Yeah, I've been obsessed watching YouTube. I'm subscribed to over 900 channels. I watch about 25 hours a week. Yeah, probably more than 25 hours a week.
Jesus Christ, dude. That's actually insane.
How do you keep track of all that? Oh my God.
I don't have a life. That's how.
Oh my God.
Dude, I've seen people that subscribed way more though, so I don't feel crazy anymore. Or at least as crazy. But no, I tried the YouTube thing, like try to make my own videos for a while. Sucked at it, so I just decided I'm just gonna be an adamant watcher of the thing and talk about it on a podcast. So that's kind of where I'm at now. So there you go.
All right,
who's next?
Dale, you're up.
Hi. Yeah, so
Hi.
I'm I'm Dale. I am a writer actually for the EloChat, EloTalk, and then I technically did a podcast, but that's been recently shut down because my co-host bailed, and then I'm just kind of sitting around waiting for iTunes to allow me to make another one. But I do the new Magic the Gatherings Decked Out series along. I've talked about Hearthstone before. I'll probably be talking about that pretty soon here because the next expansion is out. I'm pretty much the trading card competitive card game guy here, and I will eventually be doing my own podcast called Tier 2 Pro that'll be covering all those things along with any other like random kind of competitive, I hesitate to say sport, but competitive game, because like I'm going to be talking a lot about speed cubing because that's my most recent obsession.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah, no, I'm dead serious.
All right, I'm joining you on that one.
Oh my God, awesome.
I have a friend of mine who's really into that. He has like a 13-second clear time. He's trying to get it down, but yeah.
That's not bad. Yeah, no, I've like always wanted to learn to solve a Rubik's Cube, but I've never done it. I've wanted to since high school. I have a really bad habit of finding some weird small niche thing and then just getting 100% like addicted and completely just like enthralled by it. But I never actually do anything with it, and I just spend a lot of money for nothing. So this time I waited like 3 years before I'm like, all right, cool. And then like Monday at 1 o'clock in the morning, I was like, all right, I'm gonna buy speed cubes, and I spent like $50. Which,
dude, all right, I'm gonna hit you up after this podcast because I am into the speed cubing thing. I am part of the Cuber subreddit and stuff. So
I just recently joined, and once I actually get my cubes, which are coming like Friday, I'll actually be like a lot more active and a lot more into it. Like I said, I can't even solve a Rubik's Cube yet, so I need to learn to do that first. I got a 2x2 and a 3x3, but getting back on topic, YouTube wise, I'm a much more casual consumer. I keep up with a little bit of the politics on YouTube, mainly through like Philip DeFranco. And then I actually listen to the podcast Baited, which has oh god, I Keymaster. There we go. It has Keymaster on there, and
Keemstar is his name.
That's a lot of my YouTube experience. I don't subscribe to 8 million channels. Maybe like 12, and most of them aren't even active anymore, or at least they're not that active. Most of my watching is like Day9, CinemaSins, Philip DeFranco, CGP Grey, and like Casually Explained. That's it.
Oh my god, I love Casually Explained. He's so funny.
He is the best. And in fact, I guess one thing that I want to get into YouTubing, the main two things that have like made me not is that my computer is just, it's too old. It's not powerful enough to do the things that I want to do, and B, like there's just a lot of weird things happening like in the ecosystem of YouTube. So I've just been kind of like laying back just a little bit until I really come up with like a really good idea, and I'm like, oh, I can totally do this with my subpar technology, and I'll, you know, like by the time I'm actually good at doing it and I have a good viewer base, hopefully it'll, like, all of this will be been blown over or fixed.
And we will definitely get into that once we start, once we get through these introductions. So, Icy, if you want to go next.
Yes, hello, hi, I'm IcyVolk, and I am I'm terrible, actually, at Rubik's Cubes. I bought one forever ago, and it's just sitting there on my book desk.
So, it sounds like we need
installed.
to include, we're going to have, cubing articles going up on EloTalk.com here soon, so if you want to check out our website.
Yes, dude.
Yeah, you can not include me in that, because I don't know anything about Rubik's Cubes apart from actually playing around with them and playing the 3x3 ones. And that's the extent of that, but... apart from being lame at Rubik's Cube solving, I started out on YouTube in 2009, started out with Let's Plays, and then I transitioned slowly to variety content, all while being focused with video game content. Did gaming news, like weekly gaming news shows, eventually transitioned to all sorts of video content. I made review footage. I did beta alpha coverage for different video games. And then in 2014, finally decided to transition to Twitch for live streaming. And that has been incredibly satisfying in terms of community building and building my online presence. I find YouTube to be quite daunting, especially now when there's increasingly more and more content creators doing the same exact thing. Twitch has proven to be incredibly satisfying by comparison, mainly because of having a community that is live and that interacts with you on a daily basis versus YouTube, on which you have to wait days and days for subscribers to see your comments, and even then they might even miss the videos in their feeds because YouTube's subscription feed doesn't always work appropriately. So I mean, I still have my YouTube page up, but I don't think I've quit YouTube. I've taken a very long break from it. It's been 2 years since I haven't really been active on there. I did upload some VODs from my Twitch channel, but that's not really good content. I would consider it's just content that I'm trying to outsource on other platforms, and it's mainly to get my name out there. But Twitch is incredible, and I think live streaming is the next step in media content creation. But apart from live streaming, I do all sorts of other content, article writing on WordPress, and then audio blogs on SoundCloud. If you're ever interested in that kind of stuff, in my audio blogs, you can go to soundcloud.com/IcyVolk, or you can also check out vectorvolkblog.wordpress.com for articles about video games. It's all video game related, so if you're interested in any latest video game journalism, whether it be games, the latest games, or controversial topics in the games industry, then you might be curious to take a look at my trash can content. Otherwise, you can look forward to lots and lots of variety content on the Twitch page at twitch.tv/IcyVolk. I've been streaming for 2 years now, and I'm still growing. Still not partnered, but that's not a big issue for me nowadays. To me, partnership does not define success, and having a community really is what drives me to keep doing it, and meeting new people that share different passions for different games is quite a pleasure. So I think, yeah, Twitch is
awesome.
For me my new main platform.
Well, awesome. Sounds like we have quite the variety of people here. And I guess for my own background too, I have been a part of YouTube as a viewer, and like I don't really make content. I kind of upload just little clips of something that I find funny if I share with friends or something. But I've been a part of the YouTube community since around 2006 or 7. So I've been there since like high school. And I've definitely seen it grow. I've seen how it changed. I've seen how content creators have really started adding like professional value to their content. It's been really interesting, like watching people grow and seeing how the media market really changes how people create their own personal content. And it's been really interesting seeing, especially with the new developments on YouTube, especially as YouTube kind of, and this is my own personal opinion, I feel like they've been taking themselves seriously too slowly. And so they're now trying to catch up and trying to implement all these, corporate rules and trying to get people into guidelines and trying to streamline what their platform is. And I feel like they've taken so long that it's really hard to rein it in. And we'll get to that. But I've been a part of the YouTube community for like 10 years. I just checked my subscriptions. I'm subscribed to like 130 channels. So I guess but Lewis definitely beats me, but I got over 100. Woo!
You start somewhere.
Yeah, we all started from the bottom, now here, kind of thing. And I just kind of upload random clips, but yeah. So with this kind of varied experience and exposure to YouTube and how you all are kind of involved with content creating, I guess before we even talk about what the YouTube controversy is and the new policies and whatnot, my question for you all is, streaming or YouTube, which do you prefer and why? I think IC had a really good lead-in, but just talking about how the community feels more active when you do streaming, talking about how the market is going from recorded video consumption to more live streaming and interacting with content creators on live. So I don't know if you all stream, but if you do, or if you're a viewer, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer streaming or YouTube, and why is that?
For me, honestly, it totally depends on what in particular I'm watching and what exactly I'm in the mood for. For me, streaming, it's always something that I put on in the background. I subscribe to people like Day9 and Disguised Toast, mainly because the only thing that I'm watching right now streaming-wise is like Hearthstone related, but also because I like their personalities. I can put them on in the background and then they're relatively entertaining, even if they're not talking about the game itself. After that, like YouTube wise, those are more like guides, or actually like I watch Day9. He usually just takes his like the VODs from the stream, so he'll just upload a 2-hour long video, and so if I miss the stream, I usually just put that on in the background instead. That's my usual relation with YouTube.
I mean, I would say I personally prefer Twitch just because it forces me to actually make content. YouTube has a tendency of having me sit there behind the camera or behind the microphone over planning commentary and whatnot, versus Twitch, which actually forces you to put out raw and organic content, so people actually see you as you are, and it's often pretty difficult to mask who you are with a gimmick or some kind of upbeat personality or a personality that is completely contrary to who you actually are. But I mean, I like both YouTube and Twitch. They're just completely different outlets. I find myself to be more proud of myself whenever I make really good content on YouTube, especially if I spend hours editing, writing a script, and then working on all the assets versus a Twitch live stream, which is, to me, a little bit, I would consider it lazy content. But then again, there's a lot of behind the scenes work that goes into live streaming too. So I just like playing around with the two platforms. So I spent a lot of time on YouTube, and now I'm doing the same with Twitch.
Okay, I guess that leads to me then. I'm definitely YouTube first, podcast first, actually.
I guess actually, if that's more fair, I am podcast first.
That wasn't a part of the question.
well, here's how it ties into the question, because I started podcasts through YouTube. I watch every single week for 5 years now, PKA, which is a 4.5-hour podcast. So that's what got me into podcasts, is on YouTube. No, I definitely like YouTube more than Twitch, because the way I consume content is I want to see as much as I can in as little time as possible, and it's not but I like long form content. Obviously, I listen to a 4.5-hour podcast. Yeah. What I'm trying to currently, on Chrome right now on my laptop, I have, I think, 15 tabs. 12 of them are videos, just waiting to be watched, and they're all like 15 minutes or longer. And that's the way I like to consume content, is with Twitch. I like watching certain people for a while, for like a little bit. Maybe I'll be on for like an hour or two just watching, but it gets to a point where it's like, I like your stuff, but I want to watch something else. Maybe I have a horrible attention span, which makes sense. But that's kind of my reasoning for YouTube over Twitch personally. I also feel like there's more freedom, obviously, on YouTube than there is for live streaming, because live streaming, at least right now, there's only so much you can do, or there's only so much that has been done. There's more to be done, but like there's gaming is the number one, and then there's like just people talking or whatever, and that's a thing too, like on Ustream or stream.me or something, or watching people online gamble on whatever streaming stuff. Like there are little things like that, but with YouTube it's so much varied content. It's so diverse, and that's what I like about it. It's so much freedom to kind of do whatever you want. And I mean, yeah, I'm subscribed to over 900 channels, and there's so many different types of channels that I'm subscribed to, from gaming to news to whatever. Like I'm subscribed to this Russian chick who plays a jaw harp. Like I'm subscribed to it all, dude. Like I don't even know her name. It's all in Russian, so I don't know.
I can translate it for you, because I'm Russian Ukrainian. So
I watch it all. I watch it all. So yeah, that's kind of that's my 2 cents on.
To be
YouTube.
fair, Twitch is actually trying to dive into the variety too, with the IRL section and the creative.
Yeah, the creative section.
Yeah.
I've been looking into somehow getting into like doing creative stuff, mainly just like live streaming my podcasting. I guess I forgot to mention on the side, like I do podcast away from EloChat. I have like a personal weekly existential experimental podcast, which is really hard to describe. And then like I do a movie show also, along with like the gaming and hobby stuff that I do. So yeah, like Twitch, if I could get into it, I would definitely be doing a lot of the creative stuff, a lot of the creative live streaming, even though as of right now, Twitch is completely, it's like it's all gaming, right?
Yeah,
like
gaming
you don't
centric.
really see
Yeah,
much
but
creative stuff.
Side note, they actually added recently. They added uploading, and then YouTube added live streaming. Conversely,
yeah,
kind of funny to see that that contrast.
YouTube has had live streaming for a while now. I think they started that in like 2012 or earlier, possibly. It sucks though, so that's why
then
no
they
one uses
improved
it.
big time. Like what, 2 years ago? I can't remember.
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
like that. In fact,
So-
actually, really the oh no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say before we kind of like sidetrack into the new features of Twitch and stuff. I there's something that was kind of touched on, and I want to kind of like reel it back because I want to kind of get into the meat of the YouTube conversation, if that's all right. But there's this thing that I think Lewis mentioned, where the content market is it's kind of like how we were talking about Greenlight for Steam. It's that it feels kind of oversaturated, and it feels like people are kind of pumping up the same either like clickbaity stuff or just non-conversational stuff, or just things that just are there to just kind of generate ad revenue. So because we've all been involved with YouTube for some time, what does the YouTube market look like for you? And where do you think it's going in the future? Before we start talking about like the things that they're rolling out as far as their new rules and guidelines.
So I think one of the biggest things that came out with the new guidelines is like how like they are looking more into like controversial subjects, or what they like term as like bad and not. I hate to say PC friendly. I'm trying to figure out the better way to say it, but I'm just gonna say the not PC friendly stuff. So like me going into YouTube, I'd probably wouldn't start a news channel. I would start with something very simple like gaming and whatnot, because that's very neutral. It's unless you specifically want to get into the politics of like the gaming social circles, then you can, but it's really easy to stay away from politics when you choose something, especially like gaming.
So
That makes sense at all?
But when looking at the current market as a consumer, what do you see?
Current market as a consumer, I don't know. It depends on what you're asking me. Like, if you're saying, are you saying like, hey Dale, make a YouTube channel and
No, it's more like
make sure
it's
you're
more like,
okay.
hey Dale,
As a watcher,
if you were to look at YouTube right now and all the stuff that people make, what is your take on the current state of content creation?
I would say it's relatively pretty poor, unless you already know how to sift through the garbage that is YouTube. Sometimes there's a lot of just like drama stuff, like YouTube drama, and some people are into it, and if you're into it, that's totally fine, but a lot of it can be like seriously clickbaity, right?
Yeah.
The guy, like, it's immediately starts up, it's like, some muscly dude's vlog, and before he even starts the video, he's just like, make sure guys, let's see if we can get to 100,000 likes before the video is even started. Because like the algorithm itself, if you, it's interactive, right? If you have an interactive audience, they comment, they like, then you get boosted to the top.
Yes.
Right? Is that the answer you're looking for?
Yes, that definitely answers it. Thank you. Yeah, that's totally what I was looking for. Like that crowd interaction where people kind of sell that crowd interaction. They ask for the likes and the bringing that little subscription like notification bell thing that they have now.
The bell.
Like
God.
The and from my perspective, I don't necessarily blame the content creators because A, YouTube is really terrible at communicating their changes, and we can talk about that later. And B, these people have to make money. And
definitely.
It's their livelihood, so they have to do things that go with the way that the current. It's like when you play League, you have to play the meta because that's the only way you're going to be successul. So it's kind of like you have to play the YouTube meta because that's the way you're going to make money.
And the YouTube meta is like kind of almost like if you're not just producing A+ like quality content for a niche crowd, for example, cubing, since we brought that up. There's a lot of like successful cubers where it almost looks like their main source of money is like cubing. I'm not sure. Like I am very new to this brand new, very strange community. But
that's awesome.
If you were to say like, all right, what's the YouTube meta? It's like, all right, either be really, really good at this one particular thing, or be crazy attractive, and then just every other, like every week or maybe even twice a week, try to figure out some way that to share your life in some interesting way, right?
Yeah.
There's who is that blonde guy who is like really muscly? He's very, very soft on the eyes. Recently, he's
You have this thing for this muscly dude.
well, that's what it is, right? There's either like really there's really hot girls with like great cleavage, or like muscly dudes who don't wear their shirts half the time. Like that's what I mean. Like you have to be attractive in some way, shape, or form. He showed up on H3 Productions, and he did a video where he was supposedly colorblind. And then he gets these color collecting lenses, which I believe are in fact a real thing. They're just crazy expensive, and he like puts them on, and he's like crying at the sight of a sunset, and you can totally tell that he's just way overacting all of this. But a lot of it's inspirational, and people who don't know, mainly little kids, which is probably the majority of the YouTube base, right?
Wait,
they're
so
like, oh,
so
man.
before we like get too deep into this distraction here,
yeah,
let's kind of reel it back in. So
I gotta warn you guys, I'm used to making like 30-minute podcasts by myself,
but
so I
want
can
to make
just
sure
keep
we
going.
give like equal, because this is a big question, and I totally recognize that. So
I have so much to say.
yeah, I was going to say, like, Lewis, what is your take on the current content market, and what do you see as a consumer?
All right, so as a consumer, I'm looking at YouTube kind of the same way I look at any other piece of media.
I was
There's
about to say piece of garbage.
like every other piece of garbage. No. No. It's so think about like the music industry. So you have people at the top like Drake, and you have people at the top like Justin Bieber, and some people say, "Oh, they're just bad. They just make the same type of music over and over again, and it's not even good." Blah blah blah. But it appeals to a lot of people, so it's good. That's how I look at YouTube. There are things like Keemstar, like Drama Alert or whatever, who there are opinions I have on him. They aren't bad, and they're not great. But there's a market for YouTube drama. Obviously, it does well. Yeah. People like Scarce and Keemstar, and I can't think of anyone else besides Scarce and Keemstar. But there's stuff like that where there are YouTube titans like Jenna Marbles and Philip DeFranco, who. Well, Phil DeFranco's different, but I'm trying to think of other examples of.
Is I Justine still relevant? I remember when she was a thing.
She still does stuff. I'm subscribed to her still. But you know what I mean? Like there are like titans of YouTube who have been doing it for a long time, and yeah, they're attractive. Yeah, maybe their content is just them talking, and it's not even that interesting because we've seen it for 10 years. But there's a huge audience for it, and they're making a bunch of money. PewDiePie is a good example of someone who has done it the best. He came at a time when gaming was the thing, and he marketed towards children, and now his comedy is evolving as those kids get older. And I mean, there's been drama surrounding that, which we don't have to get into if you don't want.
No,
but
we're not doing that.
I almost feel like we should.
Another topic.
Let's
Yeah.
keep it on the
like
content thing.
crazy.
Yep. But the point of what I'm trying to say is, that's how I look at it. Yes, there is garbage. There's like Steam. Anyone can upload whatever. And I saw every minute there's over 400 hours of content being uploaded to YouTube, which is the reason why they have to do algorithms, because there's no army in the world that can sift through that much content. They have to do computers to do it.
Not even YouTube heroes.
Not even YouTube heroes.
Oh my god, don't even bring that up. Oh my god. Anyway, I just blacked out for like 2 seconds. What'd you say? Jeez.
It's nothing important. So yeah, there's a lot of content out there, and yeah, a lot of it's bad. But the stuff that gets popular, you can't say it's bad because it does well. There are people that there's a market for it, and that's kind of how I see the current state of YouTube. I see it as every other piece of media ever to have ever existed. So there you go.
So that wasn't as extensive as green lights. That's no, just kidding.
Yeah.
So
wait until we get to the drama part.
oh, good. I see. I didn't know if you had anything to kind of add, or if you kind of agreed with what was being said. But I didn't know if you had anything that you just wanted to like throw in there about the current content market.
As a content creator, I would say that, I mean, for a long time, creators don't rely on solely advertisements, and people, I mean, creators have been getting canned by Google for a long time now. So usually what people do is they try to grab sponsorships, or they even fund, they get their fan base to fund them through Patreon, or maybe even PayPal by tipping them a certain minimum. So it's not
Or
like
merchandise.
exactly. So if
isn't it like sorry to totally cut you off, but like the money that you make through like you personally, how much money do you make through YouTube advertisements? Like, have any of your
I believe it's $7 per 1,000 views is for the YouTube partnership program.
it's
it's somewhere around
insanely
seven.
low.
I think they upped it to like $7.50, but it's somewhere.
That's not how it worked anymore. But that might be wrong.
Yeah, no. Well, we can talk about that later.
Yeah,
but
we'll
yeah,
get there later. Anyway, I see. Finish what you were saying.
I was going to say, for during these last the whole 5 years of getting my channel monetized, I would say that I've amassed maybe 200, 300 at most, maybe less actually. And then with Twitch, I've been getting a lot more support by comparison in the thousands. So I don't see
Nice.
the ad revenue system to be any beneficial for medium-sized. Anyone under 1 million, I don't think, can solely rely on ad revenue. It's
I disagree.
Well, actually, how about really quickly?
Whoa! Before we get there,
All right. Fine.
Let's just
wanna
jump
talk
into
we
about
are still on the
whole viewership
second
of ad
question.
thing.
Jesus Christ.
That's fine.
Sorry, I'm cutting us off because I want to make sure that we talk about what's been going on.
Sure.
So let's give a little bit of a recap for those of you who don't know. There's been two things that I think are kind of the big drama topics with YouTube. The first of which is big companies are pulling their advertising support from certain content creators because it doesn't meet their policies. And people can correct me if I'm wrong with the wording here, but that's my understanding of that. That's the first thing. The second thing is that YouTube has a restricted mode that will block usually people that don't have a YouTube account that are browsing YouTube and going through people's videos. They'll restrict viewership on videos that they don't deem like family friendly, for lack of a better term. And the worst part of this, from my perspective, is that YouTube is really terrible about talking about what changes are going to happen, how they're going to happen, and then rolling it out in a way that everyone's aware that that's happening. Because I swear, like, all of my subscriptions have been content creators that are like, hey, something happened, I didn't know about it, and I've just lost money. And to me as a consumer, that sucks. I mean, just like I said, I mean, I don't depend on YouTube for money, but I can imagine that it's terrible to have your livelihood dependent on a company that can't effectively communicate policy changes, you know?
Yeah.
So when we talk about, let's talk about the companies pulling ads part. What are some initial thoughts? And we'll change it up. We'll go with Icy first. What are some thoughts from you all about companies deciding to pull ads from certain content creators? And I want to make sure that we have a conversation about the action versus the content. So I don't want to talk about the content that these people are making because that's a different discussion. I want to talk about the action that companies are taking. So I don't want to say, like, we're not going to throw anything that has to do with conservative, liberal, or anything right now. That's a very separate discussion.
Absolutely.
So Icy, what do you think?
I mean, I personally think that this was bound to happen down the line. Considering that like YouTube is a huge platform that has thousands of videos being uploaded on a daily basis. Like Google will never have a big enough team to be able to to monitor to a full extent every single video and have people actually checking for every single video title and their content included. And I think content creators that mostly talk about that partake in controversial topics, whether it be ethics or anything that isn't offensive, even then they get affected the most out of all of the types of content creators. People
you walk that fine line real well. Nice, that was good. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, but people that make stuff like makeup videos or baking videos, they're completely fine because they're making content that is, well, I don't know, not factual, but representative. They don't have to participate in a debate or an argument that could.
It's non-opinionated.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nonpartisan stuff.
It's not even nonpartisan. There's just literally no opinion.
Right. It's just.
That's what my product. That's what I'm showing, and that's what I'm talking about. I love this product. Yada yada yada. No one's being negative in the comment section or reporting my video.
Well,
providing posy vibes. But
right.
I don't know. I mean, like we're talking about YouTube, which has an automated system. So, I mean, Google needs to improve their filtering system. There's obviously no doubt about that. They have to actually improve the features and implement some kind of more complex system upgrade that allows maybe viewers to report a video if it's deemed too controversial and non-deserving of ad revenue. I don't know. I'm just thinking of possible ideas, but right now maybe Google's filtering system might be a little bit too primitive to get people approved for ad revenue appropriately. So maybe, I mean, Google's definitely at fault here, but at the same time, I think people need to realize the amount of videos that are going up every day. Like you have to understand that at the end of the day, there's corporations that are going to make bold decisions based on, money, solely on money. And they don't care about being transparent with their content creators. If they want to drop the ball on someone, that's too bad. But at the end of the day, it's business, and content creators need to look into venturing into different platforms, maybe, or finding more ways to make a better living. That's entrepreneurship.
So could we? I just want like quick consensus before we keep going. Could we all agree? And this is something that this is coming from me, so I'm a little biased in taking over here. But do you all agree with my idea that YouTube is maturing too slowly, and that this is something that they should have dealt with a long time ago? Because I feel like this is something they should have dealt with a long time ago.
My opinion on this is different. I don't think that I personally don't think it's hard, because there should be some filtering involved, and there should be some consensus with how advertisers and the content creators communicate. So yes, they should have done something. This might be, if not the worst, one of the worst ways they could have done this, in my opinion. I don't know. We'll let other people talk first, and then we'll go on my.
Yeah. So back to the companies thing. Dale or Lewis, what is your stance on companies pulling their ads from content creators?
Lewis, go ahead.
All right. Cool. So I think it's stupid.
It's garbage.
I can tell you're just itching to get into this. Go right ahead.
So am. That's why I kind of wanted you guys to go first. Just like, get it out, and then let me just whatever. All right. So, man. So I think it's disregarding the content for now. We'll get into that later, because that's another thing. But I think it is connected, and I think it's important. But I'll try to keep them separate. I think it's bad to censor people in any way, especially on something like YouTube. And a lot of people will argue, it's like, well, it's not the government, they're not really censoring you, or they're not even censoring you because they're not stopping you from uploading the video. But my argument is, it is censorship because they're stopping people from getting paid, and some of these people, it's their living, and they require money to keep living and to keep making videos for their hundreds of thousands of viewers. So it's affecting a lot of people, and it's hard to do it when you've been making money for so long, and then they're like, all right, no more money for you, and then it's not censorship because they're not taking down the videos necessarily, but it's incentivizing. It's not incentivizing people to keep making videos.
Can I ask you a quick question about that then?
Yeah.
So I'm of the view that censorship is a government conversation, right? So in my view, this is how I kind of picture it to make it simplified in my head. YouTube content creators are like employees, right? Mm-hmm. And when you work for any company, you have certain guidelines and things that you just can't do. And that's going to differ from company to company, and it's going to look and feel different from office to office, and it's never going to be the same, and it always has some sort of baseline, but there's also a ceiling. Like there's a certain threshold where people they reach outside of either the professionalism or the idea and vision behind the business or the mission values, or something that is inherently tied to their employer. So is it really censorship if YouTube, as a corporation with employees, allows people to utilize their freedom of speech because they're not the government, but doesn't pay them because it doesn't align with their mission, values, and whatever? Outside of the whole fact that they did this terribly, totally separate of that. But
yeah,
from my perspective, I would say that it's in their right as a corporation with employees to have some sort of standard, because when it comes to money, they have the final say.
Yeah, I think they have the right, obviously. Well, it's weird because YouTube's they're not necessarily employees, and also if they were employees, those employees are living all around the world with different laws and stuff.
Sure.
Censorship laws are different in Canada and America.
Simplified.
But yeah, in the simplified version, I still think it's wrong. Legally, let's say legally, fine, they have the right to do it. Morally, I think it's bad, because I think censorship starts at a community level and then works your way up to the government. That's whatever. Well, no, not whatever, actually. I think I do want to talk about this because that's the whole reason I hate this thing. Never mind. No, it's bad. Don't do that, because I think YouTube's obviously, I think it's the second most visited website in the world. I believe that's true. Correct me if I'm wrong. Email me. If it's, yeah, I believe it's true. If it's not the second, it's very high up there, and it's almost past the definition of corporation. And because of that, I can't use your description. I can't use your hypothetical whatever in my argument, because it's so much deeper than that, than just like, oh, it's a company, they can do whatever they want. Yeah, they can, but it's going, in my estimation, will lead to horrible catastrophic events that will ruin everything.
So setting up a bad precedent.
It really is. I think you gotta let people talk. That's why I like podcasts.
What about you, Dale?
Actually, my opinions have been kind of covered. Can you repeat the question just in case I need to find some nuance in here?
Good. It's talking about what are your stances and opinions on companies pulling their ad support from content creators?
Okay, so do you mean like YouTube or the companies like Verizon and
like
Audi that are
Verizon and all them?
Okay, so ultimately, I do think that like that's totally fine. Their company has a certain image, and they want to make sure that that image is protected at all times. I remember the first time I heard about this was Audi pulled their sponsorships because it was like a straight up like ISIS like an ISIS video. Essentially, it was like recruitment. And so it was like somebody like messaged them saying like, hey, what the heck is up with this? And they're like, hey, we don't want our image next to that, right? Like the advertising slot that we paid for, we do not want our money going to that particular content. So I think that's perfectly fine, and that's okay of outside companies saying, hey, YouTube, Google, get it together and do better, essentially is all they're really saying. This is a capitalist market, and here we vote with our dollar. When it comes to the like YouTube pulling their like the advertising, like the YouTubers, how all of a sudden, hey, I'm not
like
making any money off of this random video.
Mode. This is what you mean.
Yeah, like restricted mode, just pulling
demonetization, basically.
There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. The demonetization of certain videos. There it is a weird line between like, is that censorship? For me, people, when you make content for YouTube, there's a weird line between like, are they an employee of YouTube or are they merely just using YouTube as a tool for a platform? And I think people need to think more of as that as like, oh, I'm just using YouTube as a platform, right? It versus like, oh, I work for YouTube and I make content for YouTube. You really should think of it more as, I make content, I put it on YouTube, and you shouldn't like, I don't know. I don't think content providers should rely on the advertising from YouTube because, let's be honest, who uses ad block in this podcast alone?
Right.
I definitely do, and I'm pretty sure the rest of us do also.
I do not use it on YouTube because I like my creators to get money.
And you are 1 in 8 million.
One of the gems
You know?
of this YouTube society.
Yeah, you are the reason why this even matters in a way, I guess, and people like you.
Yeah.
I say
Every fan
I
of
think
a
it's
content
good.
creator should do is turn off ad
Yeah,
block
for
just
sure.
for them. You don't have to
At least on
necessarily
individual
turn it off
channels.
altogether.
Yeah.
Well,
I tend to either subscribe to the people that I really like. I subscribe to them on Patreon, which are a very few amount of people. Unfortunately, there's a podcast I listen to where like $1 gets you an additional like 2 episodes. So like that's my bar, and that's a very low bar in a way. But I think if you thoroughly enjoy this content creator, you should give your own money to them. And if more people, if that was the focus, buying their merch, donating to them, even if it's like once a year, if you look at like, if everybody that viewed just, insert any channel here with a good amount of viewership, if every person that viewed their video, that liked their video, instead just gave them $1, they wouldn't have to work again for probably a solid month or 2, right?
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. If I think people should be less reliant on YouTube's money and more reliant on their viewership money, but that's a very that's a whole nother like complete episode.
We'll talk about that after.
Right.
And I feel like that gets into like that weird area where you need to have a certain amount of popularity to be dependent on your viewership, So smaller YouTubers get cut out immediately because they don't have the viewership. They might have the passionate following, but they're not going to have the same amount of oomph as a
which is
person with
absolutely a
million subscribers or
whole
more.
factor, and it's like there's an infinite number of cases of how these work, and stressful. It's just a lot of stress.
So something that was mentioned, that Vale said that content creators aren't employees of YouTube, but what does that mean when someone says that they're a partner of YouTube? Because to me, when the check comes from YouTube, like it's signed from the company YouTube, to me that shows that the content creator is, because they're receiving money from YouTube as a partner, that subjugates them to certain standards and policies because they're in a working partnership with a parent company.
Well, I'm sorry if I cut you off, but okay. The thing I have a problem with that, like, okay, so yeah, YouTube gives the content creators money, So they're automatic. So doesn't that make them employee? Well, the employees.
Well, not necessarily an employee. Sorry to cut you off. Not necessarily.
Well, yeah,
like
but
the employee thing was more like an oversimplified thing, but like
yeah,
more like
but
they have to be subjugated to that company's policies and standards because they're receiving money from them.
Yeah, I mean, there is a contract that you sign before you enable Google AdSense. I've signed it myself, so I know. And it's extensive, and it involves like, yeah, we own your videos. Pretty much is what it's saying. So imagine something like Patreon. What if you're donating money to a content creator on Patreon? Are you their employer now? So do they have to follow by your guidelines? You know what I mean? And
Well,
and the
I would say that's different because it's non-contractual.
I think it is, isn't it? I think when you sign up for Patreon, I think there's some sort of contract you
But
sign.
you, as a donator, don't sign a contract to the creator. That's more of a That's like donate. It's a volunteer donation. You know what I mean? Like it's like you deciding to donate to like Red Cross or something. It just has a structure where you receive benefits for the amount of money that you donate versus you're responsible for the paycheck of a person. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So I think I'm not saying my words right. Okay, so I do think that YouTubers. Can we move on to the content now?
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Let's move on to the content. This is such a hard topic too because YouTube is entering this, to me at least, entering a very hard place where they have to decide what is their role in this kind of like new establishment of media market. So we have content creators that are making things. Does that mean that they're subjugated to YouTube? Does that mean that they're subjugated to themselves? Does it mean that they're subjugated to their subscribers? Is it all three? Is it none? Do we even know what's going on anymore? Is Vimeo going to be super popular now because everyone's just going to leave YouTube? Like, you know, like no one really. I feel like we're just entering a really big gray area because no one really. There's no precedent, right? Like YouTube.
Yeah, in a state of chaos.
Yeah, and like YouTube has to kind of set the way because they're kind of the first biggest, you know, share of all this content creation. So they have to set a lot of rules and guidelines and precedent in a place that we've never been before. So this stuff gets complicated, and I can imagine they have a really great legal team. Maybe. So. Yeah, let's get into the content then, shall we? And just to clarify, what exactly do you mean when you say content, Lewis?
All right, so what I mean, so I think that the two parts go hand in hand. So the companies and YouTube pulling money from the content creator, and the content being the reason why they're pulling money from them. You kind of need both, and it's hard for me to talk about it unless I talk about it, because it's not like these companies are just pulling money for no reason. There's a reason. There's bad content that they're quote unquote bad content, according to them, that their advertising is next to. For example, like the ISIS video. There was a Audi commercial right before an ISIS video or whatever. I don't even know what the video was, but I heard about it, so it must be true.
The internet told me so.
Yep, the internet told me, so it must be true. So yeah, that makes sense. I think Audi should contact YouTube and be like, hey, take my ad off of this because I don't like this. That's how I think it should work. I think advertisers should look at where their advertisings are going and individually choose but it's hard. It's hard with advertisers because with Google they have.
Be okay with them pulling it.
Well, it depends. And here's why. There are no. Oh, man, all right, I'm gonna say it. I don't care. So, the main reason why this is happening is because of the hate speech thing. YouTube said it themselves, so I gotta say it. Is YouTube's reasoning for a lot of this is because they said that we gotta cut the fat out of all this hate speech videos. Problem I have with the term hate speech is who defines hate speech, and it's very subjective, and sometimes the content creators won't agree with that definition of hate speech, in which case, but the problem with that is the content creator has no legal team to help them, usually. So then they're in a position it's like, oh, we're a company, we don't like what you're saying, we disagree with it, and we're going to pull our money from it because we don't like you. And that is happening. And it's happening two. It's not just the only thing that's happening. There's definitely just random channels with random ads being pulled because there's actual advertisers leaving, but there's also Google going into specific video people and saying, we don't like you, we're taking your money away. It's not as blatant as that, but that's pretty much what's happening. And I think it's bad, and
that was I appreciate that.
There needs to be a better communication between YouTube and its content creators saying, okay, here are the things you can say and here are the things you can't say, because until then this debate will happen forever. Because again, who defines hate speech? And this is just one example of this. There's going to be more to come after this, I bet. More whatever term that they want to say. It's like, oh no, you're doing this thing, and whatever we say you're doing it, so therefore you're doing it. There needs to be a set rules that's plain and easy to see, not just like a random 40-page contract that no one will read. It needs to be like on the homepage where if you upload a video on YouTube, these are the things you can do and these are the things you can't do. And until then, I think nothing good will come from this. Nothing good. It's just going to get more and more hectic and more volatile. I won't say violent because it's hard to beat up YouTube.
I'm gonna beat you up with an MP3 file.
Yeah, really. I'm gonna get a really
Rise
bad
of the podcasters.
Yeah. So make sure you subscribe to EloChat.
Yeah, really.
Pretty please.
Yeah, man.
And this conversation's always tough, right? Like, because I mean, for me, I don't know law. I don't know when it comes to like media law. That's very complicated. But before, and Dale and Icy, we had a big conversation with Lewis there. So what do you all think? What are your thoughts so far?
I was going to say that if it weren't for the ad revenue system, it would be a lot easier for YouTube to be maybe more transparent as to how they want to run their guidelines. But because multiple corporations are involved and because the money comes in from those big other advertisers, it's kind of hard for them to tell every content creator that they're fine or they're not fine with the content that they're putting out. And they can't always have that full control because the corporations decide to pull out. They back out because they want to protect their brand and their image and their reputation. And so it's not like YouTube can chain them into staying and supporting all the content creators that legitimately deserve getting ad revenue.
What about you, Dale?
Yeah. So, God. Yeah.
That's how I feel right now, dude.
YouTube, Google, they're notoriously bad about communicating. Unfortunately, I think like there isn't a clear way to say, hey, this is what you're allowed to say, this is what you're not allowed to say, because like not allowing someone to say something is obviously censorship in some way, shape, or form. People should be able to talk about controversial topics in a neutral fashion, without fear of the proverbial silence of getting any money that they make pulled, right? But it is a big issue that it's absolutely right. You're not just making content for YouTube. You are making content for all of the other corporations that give their money to YouTube for ad spots. We're going to try not to talk about PewDiePie, but it's almost impossible to not talk about him, especially in this aspect of, Coca-Cola doesn't want their image, their brand right next to any kind of Nazi symbolism. And I'm not going to say whether or not, how PewDiePie used that. The fact that it was used, most companies don't want to be put right next to Hitler, right? But on the other hand, let's say, Coca-Cola, they want family friendly, they want generic kind of an audience, they want kids stuff, and they're all about being light and fluffy and nice, because you never want to think about anything negative when you look at Coke. But then, like, let's say the military, like the American army, they would want, so they're totally fine with their advertisement maybe on more controversial YouTube channels where they're talking about war and whether or not something's American or not, because
that'd be surprising, but yeah, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Sorry, yeah, it's not the most clear way, right? But they
It's different for every advertiser.
Yeah, it's different for every advertiser. Let's say like Razer doesn't want their advertisement on kid toy unboxings. They want their advertisement on the gamer channels and whatnot. So maybe there needs to be easier ways for companies to cherry pick where they want their money going versus what seems to me just kind of like a general blob of advertisers go here, and advertisers can pay for certain slots, more just they're more like high profile slots, right, where they are going on the bigger YouTube channel without any regard to what said channel is about.
I just thought of something. I think one way they could fix this. Hey, YouTube, if you're listening, hear me up. Hit me up, guys. They could. I think they need to have better guidelines with the advertisers, not the content creators.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, all right, you, Coca-Cola, if you sign with us, you are agreeing to all of the videos on our site being possibly next to your ad. And I think that would be better. They'll probably lose a lot more advertisers, but at least there'd be less controversy within the advertisers, because then there's like, oh, we know what we're getting into. Then they're not just randomly leaving and randomly coming in. Then there's a little bit more stable ground for them. I think that might be better.
So,
I don't know
Yeah,
about you
maybe
guys.
that is a good point. Like, instead, like, hey, content creators, you can make your content as long as it's not hate speech, as long as it's not blatantly like racist, it's not anything absolutely horrendous.
Well, I disagree
Go
with
ahead
some of
and
that,
make
but
it.
oh my god.
But-
I heard that. Did you like lean into the mic for that too? Like, oh, I don't want to.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and then oh my god. Anyways, right.
That
and
was
then-
Lewis that said that, by the way, just so
Yeah.
you guys know.
Yeah.
That's not EloTalk's opinions, that's Lewis's opinion.
So,
Oh, I would have
so-
just blamed it on IcyVolk.
as we can, oh wow, dang.
Wowie, wowie.
So,
Shots
so
fired.
as we can all see,
You're my favorite thus far.
like, oh wow,
What about
you
me?
can leave. Jeez. God. So as we can see, this stuff is super, super complicated. It has a lot of layers and intersections with things that even we're not very familiar with. Especially maybe because I'm just not a content creator, so I haven't really experienced all this. But I kind of want to touch on one more topic before we wrap up. And that's YouTube's response. I really want to talk about this because, we're talking about how content creators have a responsibility to YouTube, but I think the conversation also needs to be how YouTube has a responsibility to its community, and it's not following through on it. And for me, just watching this from the sidelines, and I kind of want to start with Icy just because you talk about how you work with content creation and whatnot too. But, if I worked for any sort of business, and again, this is a very oversimplified example, but if for some reason they had a policy one day that there was a switch in dress code from jeans to slacks, and if you don't do that, you get written up, and then if you get 3 write-ups, you're fired. If they didn't tell the employees, that's not equal access to information, and it puts people at risk of losing their job, which gets them away from making an income. So when we look at YouTube and how this isn't the first time, but how they will have new policies and then roll them out like that next tweet, and then people don't comply with it because they don't know what's going on, and then they have all of their videos pulled because they're not in compliance. That creates this weird situation where YouTube has a lot of corporate power. So what do you see? And if you were to talk to YouTube right now, what are some things that you would say, like, hey, YouTube, like, you're great, it's an on again, off again relationship. It's not you, it's me. But you need to fix this. What would you say as a consumer, as a content creator, to make sure that the YouTube relationship to its community stays healthy?
Communicate better.
Yeah.
They don't
like,
post
that's
your
really it,
blog
huh?
posts on Google. Put them up on the YouTube homepage. Make a video, maybe. Have a
Make a
business
vlog.
leader.
Oh
yeah.
my god.
Kind of like
Oh my god, YouTube should hire Casey Neistat to make them a blog.
Well, Casey Neistat's not on YouTube anymore, so that wouldn't work. But yeah, definitely something like that.
Well, maybe they should have like I'm thinking maybe like a weekly video series where they have the lead developer or business leader talk towards the camera to all the consumers, viewers, whether it be content creators or just viewers. I think they just need to communicate better and funnel the communication better and not have it separated from the main platform. Because I mean, people aren't gonna like, not everyone knows what's going on. Not every content creator is aware of the ad problems, and not everyone is being targeted. Many content creators are intact, they're fine with their videos, but they also are worried for their video partners, people that they collaborate with. They're worried about those people that are some of their peers that might be getting screwed over. So it's a little unfair. They just YouTube needs maybe to manage their system better. Maybe have like a team of people communicate properly, and maybe have some kind of not partnership, but maybe like a constant line of communication. Maybe have the bigger YouTubers have some form of constant communication going on with YouTube developers. Have like a help line, like a partner help. I don't know, some kind of.
Did you say YouTube heroes?
No,
I don't know much about that, but I've heard
No,
that
that's not-
before.
Dude, stop, man. You're gonna trigger me.
No, well, that's not what YouTube Hero is. YouTube Heroes was
I know.
content.
No,
Yeah.
that was definitely just a terrible joke.
We know how Twitch has.
Honestly, I would love a clear answer as to exactly what YouTube Hero is.
Oh, I can
'Cause
do that real quick. YouTube
boy.
Hero.
You have 20 seconds.
All right, YouTube Heroes was a garbage thing that YouTube put out, where it's like, hey, you viewer, do you want to report any video you want?
Now I remember.
And say like, okay, if you don't like this video, you can report it, and that video won't get money
Yeah,
anymore.
what happened to that? What do they do with that feature?
They did, because it's garbage.
Yeah, like they had there was no real way of managing the heroes. There was elitism amongst the heroes. There was a leveling system. It was bizarre.
Yeah, PewDiePie actually made a video, and that's one of the controversial one, where he was wearing a Nazi uniform,
That's
squatting
basically,
Hitler.
that sounds like YouTube just being lazy again and not.
Exactly.
That's over
management
20
sense,
seconds. Oh.
Anyway,
I'm fired.
No, it's all good. So,
but
Going back to that
I
whole
was
communication
saying
thing.
earlier that you know how Twitch has like a partner team where they can actually help partners and give them feedback on what they're allowed to do and if they can stream X or Y game. Why don't
I
do
actually
they
don't.
have that sort of system for YouTube is what I'm wondering, and if they were to implement something like that, maybe have content creators apply for that. And it just sounds like YouTube doesn't want to take that extra step in actually putting in a proper line of communication with content creators, because content creators are out there not knowing what's going to happen next to their videos, and meanwhile YouTube just decides to partake in a new change every couple months or so, and people are not aware of it beforehand or in advance, and it sucks. I don't know.
So, yeah, just increasing that communication somehow. There's no solution there. You know?
Yeah.
And I totally agree with you. I think that there needs to be some sort of way to keep that communication open, and then it gets difficult because then it's like, again, to that question of manpower and who's going to do that. But yeah, I agree. I think there needs to be something, because 0 is worse than one. So, yeah. Dale, what do you think?
That same thing. Like, the fix is there just needs to be better communication, actual communication, or there just needs to be a total reinvention of the wheel, or someone needs to make their own thing, and we can all just migrate over to that, right? We saw on Reddit a while back, Reddit decided that there's a handful of hateful subreddits, and they just banned them all, and so a lot of people flocked to a site named Vote, voat.co. It's like based somewhere in Europe, and it's a lot more open. It's a lot whatever, right? So maybe there just needs to be a different thing that people go to, but who would do that, right?
Well, I just to piggyback off what you said, the same thing happened with Twitter. Twitter started banning people for whatever reason. I mean, whatever you think the reason is. It happened, and then so there's this new website that got created called Gab, which is literally Twitter, but no one gets banned. There's no ban option. You can say whatever you want, and yeah, the problem with that is iTunes will not put that on their App Store, and neither will Play Store, I believe. Google won't put it on their Play Store. So yeah, you can create another thing. Good luck making it work. No one's gonna use it.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
That's, exactly. It's like Vimeo, right?
Exactly.
What's on Vimeo? Just a bunch of indie films. I don't know anybody who uploads their gaming videos, maybe like a vlog, if you're really artsy with your vlog, right? But there's Casey Neistat, exactly, right? There's no, I don't think there's any gaming on Vimeo. And also, when was the last time you logged into Vimeo?
For
me,
actually recently.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So,
right, like me, it's been forever.
So, Lewis, what about you? If you could say something to YouTube, what would it be?
All right, first I'd call up John YouTube,
Oh God,
Mr. John YouTube, and I'd say, "Hey man, you're bad at your job."
and then he hangs up the phone, and that was the shortest conversation you ever had with a corporate.
All right, that was it. All right, now what do you have to say? No, I'm kidding. No, if I could actually talk to them, I'd say like, yeah, communication, better communication, please, for the love of God, get better communication. But I also think, calm down. I think they're going too crazy. I think it's hard because, see, there are some videos that are some people that I watch and who have their opinion that like, oh, they're silencing us because we're whatever political opinion. I don't know if that's necessarily true because I think YouTube's just stupid. I think they're not good enough to target people like that.
Is this what you're saying to John YouTube? You are hurting his feelings.
Well, John YouTube, you get better. I think they're. Yeah, I know it's hard when you have 400 hours of content every minute being uploaded to your site. You can't get it perfect, but they're really doing a good job at making it as bad as possible, aren't they? Because everyone's mad. I don't think there's anyone. Sometimes when YouTube makes a change, there are some people like Smosh or whatever that are like, "Oh, guys, it's okay. It's not affecting us." But this one's affecting, I think, everyone, and no one's happy about it.
Well, it's affecting a lot of people, yeah.
I don't know anyone that's not affecting. I'm sure that even beauty channels it's affecting. You know what I mean? Like I can almost guarantee like every channel that makes money on YouTube is getting affected by this. And
well, actually, H3 Productions just tweeted out that they had a bunch of videos demonetized, but they're not political at all. They're just humor bits. They had a 3 million subscriber. Hey guys, look, we got 3 million subscribers. That's demonetized from their Vape Nation video, right? Like those aren't political at all. Like what? Why even?
Yeah.
Why even?
And that's why I think it's way simpler than they're targeting people. I think they're just bad.
Yeah, it could just be horrible.
Yeah. As much as I'd like to think that they were targeting people, because then it's like, then we have an enemy. They're like, oh, you're targeting people, blah, blah, blah. But no, I think I think they need to calm down on trying to fix problems that don't want to be fixed. I think the majority of people don't care about X YouTuber who makes offensive videos. You know what I mean? Like, I think the average person is like, the average YouTube watcher is like, oh, here's someone I don't like. I'm not gonna watch them. You know what I mean? The whole money thing and the whole hate speech, whatever, will solve itself. If people don't like it, they'll not watch it. That's how that works. And I think YouTube needs.
I think it's a little less or a little more complicated than that. A lot of it's, like I said, like let's say me, Johnny Skinhead, subscribes to a hate speech YouTube channel.
You have a very
and then I
love it.
and seeing someone else with the same opinions as me, has this platform. I am now inspired to go out and push said platform because I'm validated in my political views, whatever they happen to be with a name.
I think I know what they happen to be. But I disagree with you because I'm not going to say I'm a lawyer here, obviously. I don't know the laws that well, but I know that there's not a lot of restrictions on free speech, at least in America. There's libel laws, meaning you can't directly say this person did this thing when they didn't do that thing. Mm-hmm. And if that person ends up losing money because of it, you can be sued. And you can't directly incite violence. So I can't make a video saying, hey, okay, please take this in context, by the way.
No,
don't just clip this part.
Make it a nice
example. Just say,
okay,
hey
fine.
guys,
Hey,
I'm gonna make a YouTube video that says everybody needs to hit puppies.
Yeah,
That's
there you
not
go.
Good.
I didn't say that. But good. Yeah, imagine if that video was made. That's inciting violence. Those are, as far as I know, the only laws for speech. And yeah, YouTube's not the government, blah blah blah. But like I said, I think it starts with culture and then it works your way down. I mean, Andrew Breitbart said that whatever, blah blah blah. Okay.
Why does everyone have really weird first names? John.
That's a real
YouTube.
person.
Oh, that's his name.
That's
Andrew
actually,
no,
that's actually
he said that politics is downstream from culture. So, which I agree. I think once you change the culture, and YouTube's there's a lot of people that use it, you'll affect a lot of things. And I think YouTube is in a position way past company, way past corporation. I think they have to be mindful of what they're doing, because you might get the wrong, the people that you silence in whatever way it is might be the wrong person to silence. And you don't know that because you're silencing them. So
yeah, and
that's,
man, I think if there's one thing that people that are listening to this can take away is that this conversation is very complicated.
Very.
It has layers and layers of intersections with different kinds of
like
social issues, law issues, political issues, culture. There's a lot in here because YouTube is a conglomeration of literally everything that is a reflection of our culture.
Yeah.
And when you look at something that's such a big melting pot of all these different views and opinions and content, it becomes harder and harder and harder to find a nuanced argument because everything is so intertwined with each other, right? Mm-hmm. So, and kind of looking at our time too, I want to first of all thank everyone for participating. That was, I feel like, very good, lively discussion. There was a lot that we covered there. And thank you all for not getting into the political stuff. That was good. I appreciate it.
Not easy.
Focus on the issue.
Not easy at all for me.
Focus on the issue versus the subject matter, which is good.
No, the SJWs are just angry that Trump
And, that's a great time to plug in the fact that...
Hey, guys, what's your opinion on black people?
Oh, my God. So, EloTalk is a really great Patreon.
NWA.
If you want to support this content. We have a Patreon over at patreon.com/EloTalk. We have different tier rewards for different levels of donations, and we'd love your support. It helps go toward our amazing community of writers and editors such as myself, and content creators to do podcasts, and helps us create the stuff that we love to do every day. So if you want to be a part of our community, if you want to show us your support, we will gladly take that donation, and we will keep making that stuff for you on the daily.
Hooray!
Forever. No, I don't know. But again, thank you all for coming. You can find all of these folks' links to their social media outlets and Twitches and YouTubes. I'm sure we put that on our website.
Yep.
And if there's any, if you wanna tweet us your thoughts, or maybe like join in our Discord and just kind of jump in one of our voice channels and just yell at us. Like,
Don't open those gates. Don't. Just don't.
Okay, don't tweet us.
Yeah.
Just,
Yes. Tweet me, Lewis at Awesome McGee, Awesome MGY. I will gladly talk to you about this because I have a lot of opinions on things you didn't
I
realize.
unfortunately was on the brink of doing big arguments with Lewis. He's good. He likes to keep a conversation going. I can attest to this. But yeah, thank you again, everyone, for coming. Like I said, you can find all our partner links on our website, and we will see you next time on EloChat. And before we actually sign off, I want to end up on a positive note. What's one thing that you've really enjoyed, whether it's gaming or technology, culture related? What's something that you've really enjoyed this week, or actually this month, this past month of March? Just one thing, and you have to go pretty quick.
I'll go last.
I think I want to go first. Legend
Go
of
ahead,
Zelda, Breath of His Stinky Mouth.
Wow, that was completely inaccurate, but great. I'm glad that you like Breath of the
I'm
Wild.
playing a shit ton of it. I can't wait to talk more about it if there's ever that Nintendo Switch episode.
Actually, we had a bonus. We have a bonus episode of Breath of the Wild coming out, and this was like pre getting into it like multiple hours. So keep an eye out for that bonus episode, and I'm sure that we'll visit Breath of the Wild again in a future episode as well. So you are more than welcome to come to that. What about you, Dale?
So for me, I love Magic the Gathering, and we're finally getting the first looks at the new set that's coming out. Some cards have been leaked, some cards have been spoiled. For those who don't know, Magic right now, the standard format is really boring, so we really need a new influx of cards, and they do a special super dope. It's all like nice and foiled out, has new art of they just reprint old cards, and in Amonkhet they're called incantations. So we're getting very pretty Egyptian themed card art right now, and so I'm like, yay, finally I have an excuse to make my Magic the Gathering podcast because there's actually news going on.
Nice.
And you guys will be able to find all that stuff on like where I write and Decked Out. The podcast is called Tier 2 Pro. Hopefully it gets out soon. For some reason, every time I send it into iTunes, it's just like, nope, you didn't send us anything, try again. So one of these days.
We will we'll see that when it shows up. Awesome.
Yep.
And then Lewis. Oh, and cubing. Don't forget cubing.
Oh yeah. Oh, are you talking about Rubik cubes? So freaking every day is gonna be a new Rubik's Cube article.
Oh
Peter
my
is gonna
gosh.
ban me just from how much
gosh.
Rubik's cubes is going
Peter
to be.
I'll be on your side, Dale.
Yeah.
I'll be on your side, Dale. I like cubing, so.
All right, Lewis. What about you?
So mine's okay. Let's go YouTube related because there's a lot of good YouTube in the world. There's a boy I like called Jordan Peterson. It's not really gaming or anything related, but it's YouTube related, so I think it's okay to talk about. He's a professor at the University of Toronto who uploads his psychology courses straight onto YouTube, and I learn a lot from that boy, and I think you will too.
That
so
boy.
look
I'll
up
have
Jordan.
to remember that.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
that
look
boy.
at-
Look at it. That
There's
boy.
okay. The Jordan Peterson rabbit hole goes down a lot of holes in other cultural, socio-political things. But if you just want to get into psychology, that's a good way to start. If you want to also go into other socio-political stuff, he's also a good guy.
Nice.
But yeah, Jordan Peterson, check him out, and you'll be interested. You might not agree, but you'll be interested.
And then for me, I guess my big thing, I'm cheating because I'm the host. I have two. Breath of the Wild
How
is
dare you.
one. Obviously, I have loved that game. I think it did some really great things and really terrible things with it, but I love the game.
It's full of surprises, yeah. You never know what's going to happen in the game.
And it's also full of frame drops, but you can listen to that in the bonus episode.
Especially on TV, yeah.
But yeah, and then my other thing is that Final Fantasy XIV just finished up its expansion main story quest recently. So it's really exciting to kind of see that. It's been like 2 years, so it's kind of cool, like seeing the story come to an end. And I've been a part of Final Fantasy for a while now. I put like thousands of hours into it, so it's really cool seeing it.
Personally.
Oh my god, I am so excited for Stormblood.
I recently subscribed though, so I'm taking a break to actually play through all of the Final Fantasy games because I've never played the original ones. So that's been going on for me. I've been actually streaming all of them too.
You and I should talk about what games you should play afterward.
The answer is 3. Play Final Fantasy 3. That's the answer.
And actually, we talk about Final Fantasies in a different episode of EloChat.
Nice.
So, but yeah, thanks again, everyone, for coming. It was a really fun show. And like I said, if you, a listener, are interested in following our shenanigans, make sure you're subscribed. Check us out on iTunes and other places where you consume your podcast needs. Check out our Patreon again at patreon.com/EloTalk. And